The emergency klaxon screamed through the cargo bay of the Wandering Prophet, and Captain Rilnox knew, he just knew that Garvok had screwed up again. "Captain!" His first officer's voice crackled over the comm, panic bleeding through every syllable. "We have a situation in cargo hold 3. Rilnox's 3 eyes closed in resignation. What kind of situation? "The kind where you should probably come down here. Now, sir." Rilnox found Darvok standing frozen in the middle of cargo hold 3, his scales pale green, the Rexian equivalent of absolute terror. "Garvok," Rilnox said slowly, "why do I hear crying?" "I can explain." "Why," Rilnox continued, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper, "do I hear a mammalian infant crying in my cargo hold?" Garvok's mouth opened, closed, opened again. I thought it was a Rigelian grass squeaker." "A grass squeaker?" Rilnox stormed past his officer toward the makeshift pen in the corner. There, wrapped in what appeared to be someone's spare uniform, was a tiny pink creature with an oversized head, making absolutely pitiful wailing sounds. A human baby. A human baby. "You idiot! You absolute unbelievable idiot! You stole a human child."
"I didn't steal it," Garvok protested. "The trader on Kepler, 442b, said it was livestock. Rare exotic livestock. I paid 3,000 credits for it." 3,000? Rilnox grabbed Garvok by his uniform collar. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Do you have even the slightest comprehension of the galaxy-ending catastrophe you've just brought aboard my ship?" The baby's cries intensified, and both aliens instinctively stepped back. "It's just one human," Garvok said weakly. "A small one. Surely what?" Rilnox released him and began pacing frantically. "Did you sleep through every single xenology briefing? Did you somehow miss the 17 incidents in the past decade where entire fleets were reduced to debris because someone looked at a human child wrong?" He pulled up his datapad, claws trembling as he scrolled. "Let me refresh your clearly defective memory. The Korthax incident. 3 battlecruisers destroyed because they detained a human family for routine inspection and made the baby cry. The Xelon massacre. An entire space station depressurized because some drunk idiot shoved a human kid. The Proxima extinction event. Do you know why there's no longer a Proxima cartel? Because they trafficked human children." Garvok's scales had gone from pale green to nearly white. "Sir," their communications officer's voice crackled over the intercom, "I'm picking up a hyperspace signature. Big one. Military grade." Rilnox felt his blood turn to ice. "Identification." A pause. A very long pause. It's a Terran Defense Coalition battlecruiser, sir. The Eternal Fury. They're hailing us." "Of course they are," Rilnox muttered. He tapped his comm badge with a trembling claw. "This is Captain Rilnox. Put them through." The view screen flickered to life, revealing a human female in a military uniform. Her face was perfectly calm, that terrifying human calm that every species in the galaxy had learned to fear more than any weapon. "Unidentified vessel," she said, her voice like ice wrapped in steel. "This is Commander Chen of the TDC Eternal Fury. Approximately 4 hours ago, an infant human child was abducted from a civilian transport near Kepler, 442b. Our scans indicate the child is aboard your vessel." Rilnox opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Commander Chen leaned forward slightly. "You have exactly 12 hours to return the child, unharmed, unfed anything except human-compatible nutrition, and unstressed, to the nearest TDC station. If you deviate from the course we're transmitting, if you harm a child in any way, if you make us wait even 1 second past that deadline." She smiled. It was the most horrifying thing Rilnox had ever seen. "Well, you've heard the stories, Captain. I won't insult your intelligence by repeating them. Chin out." The screen went dark. 12 hours. Garvok shrieked. "The nearest TDC station is 8 hours away at maximum burn. We can do this." "You absolute fool," Rilnox whispered. "Look at your datapad. Look at what she said." Garvok pulled it up confused. Then his eyes widened. unfed, anything except human-compatible nutrition. But we don't have human-compatible nutrition. We're a Vrexian cargo ship. Exactly. Rilnox pulled up the ship's inventory. Our entire food supply is protein-based nutrition paste, safe for 87% of known species. Humans are not in that 87%. Our water supply is filtered for Vrexian biology, also toxic to humans. What about the emergency rations? Corellian freeze-dried protein bars would cause anaphylactic shock in a human adult, would probably kill an infant in minutes. The baby's cries had intensified to a full wail. What does it need? Garvok asked desperately. Rilnox pulled up human infant care protocols on his datapad. His claws trembled as he scrolled. Food every 2 to 3 hours. Specific human milk or formula. Clean water. Temperature regulation. They can't maintain their own body heat. Constant supervision. They can apparently die from lying on their stomachs wrong. Emotional comfort. Emotional comfort. They require emotional bonding and reassurance, or they experience something called failure to thrive and literally die from loneliness. Both aliens stared at the wailing infant in horror. Okay, Rilnox said, forcing himself to think. Okay, we improvise. Garvok, plot a course for TDC Station Echo. Maximum burn. Drain everything we have into the engines. Sir, do it. The rest of you, find anything that might work as human infant nutrition. Check the medical bay, check personal supplies, check the damn cleaning supplies if you have to. For the next 20 minutes, the crew of the Wandering Prophet conducted the most desperate scavenger hunt in the ship's history. Captain, their medic called over the comm, I found some amino acid supplements in the med bay. They're not toxic to humans? Probably isn't good enough. Rilnox snapped. Keep looking. He turned back to the baby, which had somehow managed to cry even louder. Its tiny face was red. He learned that was a bad sign in humans. Very bad. The translator can't interpret its vocalizations, his science officer reported. Infant humans apparently don't use language yet. We have no idea what it needs. Rilnox carefully picked up the infant, trying to remember the proper technique from the protocol he'd frantically read. Support the head. Don't squeeze. Maintain appropriate temperature. The baby looked up at him with huge, watery eyes and screamed directly in his face. Sir! Ensign Krev burst into the cargo hold. I found something. He held up a sealed container. One of our human passengers from 3 months ago, the anthropologist studying Vrexian culture, she left behind some supplies, including this. Rilnox grabbed the container and read the label with trembling claws. Human infant formula. Suitable for ages 0 to 12 months. By the void gods, yes. He quickly scanned the preparation instructions. Mix with clean water. Heat to specific temperature. Test on wrist first. Why wrist? Humans only had 2 arms. Their wrists weren't particularly. Focus, Rilnox. Focus. 10 frantic minutes later, they had a bottle prepared. The water had been purified through their universal filtration system 3 times. The temperature had been checked with medical precision. The formula had been mixed exactly according to the ratios on the container. Rilnox held the bottle to the infant's mouth. The baby immediately stopped crying, latched onto it, and began feeding. The entire crew let out a collective sigh of relief. Status report, Rilnox demanded, still holding the now quietly feeding infant. We're 3 hours into our journey, his navigator reported. Making excellent time. The Eternal Fury is maintaining a following position at exactly 200,000 kilometers. They are watching. Of course they are. Rilnox looked down at the infant, who was now staring up at him with disturbingly intelligent eyes while it fed. How much formula do we have? Enough for approximately 18 hours, sir. Given that we'll reach the station in 5 more hours, we should be fine. Should be. Rilnox didn't like the word should, not when dealing with humans. The infant finished its bottle and made a small sound. Rilnox carefully set the bottle aside, remembering something from the protocol about. The baby vomited directly onto his uniform. Burping, his science officer finished reading from the datapad. Human infants need to be burped after feeding to release trapped gas, or they experience discomfort and regurgitate. Thank you, Rilnox said dryly, looking down at his ruined uniform. Very timely information. The baby, having thoroughly emptied its stomach onto the captain, began crying again. Over the next 2 hours, the crew of the Wandering Prophet received a crash course in human infant care that no xenology class could have prepared them for. They learned that human infants needed their waste storage devices, diapers apparently, changed regularly, and that human infant waste was surprisingly potent for something so small. They learned that human infants could not regulate their own temperature and that the cargo hold was far too cold. 3 crew members spent an hour rigging a heating system that wouldn't accidentally cook the child. They learned that human infants became overstimulated by too much noise and light, which seemed paradoxical given how much noise they themselves produced. Most importantly, they learned that human infants needed something called comfort and reassurance, which apparently required holding them in specific ways, making specific sounds, and gentle rhythmic movement. "This is ridiculous," Garvok muttered, carefully rocking the baby back and forth as instructed by the datapad. "We're a spacefaring civilization. We've mastered faster-than-light travel, and we're defeated by a creature that can't even control its own neck muscles. This creature represents humanity's future," Rilnox said quietly, watching his officer work. "Every single human you've ever heard of, every warrior, every diplomat, every terrifying story, they all started exactly like this. Completely helpless, utterly dependent." He paused, a disturbing thought occurring to him. And every single one of them had other humans willing to burn down the galaxy to protect them. For hours and 30 minutes into their journey, Commander Chen's face appeared on the view screen again. "Status report, Captain," she said. It wasn't a request. "The child is functional," Rilnox reported, very carefully choosing his words. "We've managed to feed it him? Her. 3-month-old Emily Rodriguez. Emily is fed, clean, and currently resting. We have sufficient formula for the remainder of the journey. We will arrive at TDC Station Echo in 37 minutes. Commander Chen's expression didn't change. "Put visual on the child." Rilnox felt his blood pressure spike, but he complied, angling the camera toward where Emily lay in her makeshift nest of temperature-controlled blankets, sleeping peacefully. For several long seconds, Commander Chen simply stared. Then Rilnox saw something that terrified him more than any weapon. Her expression softened slightly. "You've done well, Captain," she said quietly. "Better than most species would have managed." "I had no choice," Rilnox replied honestly. "Your species made the alternative very clear." "No." Chen shook her head slightly. "You always had a choice. You could have panicked. You could have jettisoned the child in an escape pod and run. You could have tried to fight." Her eyes hardened again. "Others have tried all of those options. It ended poorly for them. But you chose to care for her. That matters." TDC Station Echo was enormous, easily 10 times the size of any station Rilnox had ever docked with. And every single weapon system was trained on the Wandering Prophet. "Captain," his tactical officer whispered, "I'm reading enough firepower pointed at us to vaporize a small moon." "I'm aware," Rilnox said quietly. He carefully lifted Emily, who was awake and making small, cooing sounds. "Prepare for docking." The docking procedure was the most stressful 15 minutes of Rilnox's life. One wrong move, one slight deviation from the precise instructions they were given, and he was certain they would cease to exist. Finally, the airlock connected with a solid thunk. The inner door opened, revealing Commander Chen and 6 other humans in military uniforms. Behind them, Rilnox could see a woman in civilian clothes, her face streaked with tears. "Emily!" the woman cried out, reaching forward. "Hold!" Chen commanded, and the woman froze. The commander turned to Rilnox. "Status report, Captain. Any injuries? Any health concerns?" "None that I'm aware of," Rilnox said carefully, stepping forward with Emily. "She was fed approximately 90 minutes ago. Her last waste elimination was 45 minutes ago. She's been crying less over the past hour. I believe she's been adequately comfortable. Chen ran a medical scanner over the infant, checking readings that Rilnox couldn't interpret. Finally, she nodded. Mrs. Rodriguez, Chen said, stepping aside. The woman rushed forward, and Rilnox carefully transferred Emily into her arms. The reunion was intense. Humans apparently leaked water from their eyes when experiencing strong emotions, both positive and negative. "Thank you," Mrs. Rodriguez sobbed, clutching her daughter. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." "I'm sorry," Rilnox found himself saying. "I'm so sorry this happened. My crew member made a catastrophic error in judgment." Commander Chen studied him for a long moment. Then she pulled out a datapad. "Captain Rilnox, your vessel and crew are being fined 500,000 credits for illegal abduction of a human minor. The crew member directly responsible, Garvok, I believe, will be required to undergo mandatory xenology training. You will all be flagged in TDC systems." Rilnox's heart sank. That fine would bankrupt them. However, Chun continued, "Given your cooperation, your care of the child, and the fact that we recovered Emily unharmed and healthy." She paused. "The fine is suspended. You're free to go." Rilnox stared. "I what?" "You heard me, Captain. You did the right thing, the hard thing. That counts for something." She leaned in slightly. "But spread the word in your trading circles. Spread it far and wide. Do you understand what I'm telling you?" Rilnox understood perfectly. Never, ever, under any circumstances, harm a human child. Fast learner. Chun smiled. A real smile this time, nothing terrifying about it. "Get your idiot officer some proper education, Captain, and maybe invest in better cargo scanners." 3 days later, the crew of the Wandering Prophet sat in the mess hall, still processing everything that had happened. "We should have died," Garvok said quietly. "By every statistical probability, we should have been atomized." "Yes," Rilnox agreed, taking a drink of his Vrexian ale. "We should have." "Why didn't they?" their science officer asked. "They had every right, every justification. We violated the most sacred rule in human culture." Rilnox thought about Commander Chen's words, about Mrs. Rodriguez's tears, about tiny Emily, completely helpless and yet somehow capable of bringing an entire battlecruiser to her rescue. "Because," he said slowly, "we took care of her. In our own incompetent, terrified, completely unprepared way. We try to keep her safe." He paused. "Humans understand that. They value that, even from aliens." "They're insane," Garvok muttered. "No," Rilnox corrected, pulling up a news article on his datapad. "Local alien crew safely returns abducted infant. Humanity shows mercy. We're heroes, apparently. Or at least, not villains." He looked around at his crew. "Humans are protective,